Hello everybody, welcome back to the Atlas Image channel. Today I'll be showing you how I took this shot, here's the ambient, and merged it with some flash pops from my AD200 to create this final finished image. I'm going to show you how to light a large space like this with just a simple smaller flash like an AD200, so stick around. Okay, so here we are in Lightroom. As you can see, this whole set of images here is 12 total, not including the window pulls. We're at a total of 6. So I'm going to be running through some basic flambient blending principles here, but I'm also going to try to go kind of quick just to be able to get through this process. So for those who don't know what flambient is, typically with real estate photography, there are multiple styles. Some of them are just processing single images into the final product. Some of it is merging multiple exposure brackets known as HDR into a final image. And then there's also this method that people call flambient, which is a mix of flash and ambient, basically flash and non-flash images to create the final image. Now, what I'll be showing here is the flambient process, and I'm just going to quickly go over how this works in practice and in editing. And if you think this might be a really long, involved process, I shot these series of 12 images from 12:08 p.m. to 12:10. It took about 2 minutes to capture these 12 images and get all of the data I needed for this final product. And if I didn't do the window pulls, it would have taken about a minute. Just to get these 6 shots. So it's not a super involved, super time-consuming process if you can do it correctly. And so I recommend, if you're trying to get into flambient to begin with, practice. Invest in an AD200. They're manageable price-wise compared to other higher-end flashes like the AD400 or 600. And just practice on small houses or practice in your own home. There's a lot that you can learn just by actually doing the thing and getting used to it. So the way that the flambient process works, excuse me, is we take a very bright ambient photo. So as you can see, this is a very bright image on the histogram right here. A lot of that is because of the windows. When you have a window in your space, that's going to kind of overblow the ambient. But I made sure to push it far enough to know that I had something inside the room here as well to work with. And if we go over and push the exposure, you can see that I definitely have information in the room that's not too noisy, and that's all we care about. The only thing we will be using from this image in the blending is its brightness, its luminosity, how light or dark certain pixels are. We're not using any color information whatsoever here. And then with the flash images, the only thing we're using these for are the actual color in the pixels here. So the way that this works is, as you can see right here, I shot this at f7.1. I opened up the aperture a little bit more to let a little more light in, because when it comes to flash, our flash is going off at like 1/500th of a second or something like that. And so the shutter speed is how we control the ambient light here. And then the aperture and ISO is how we control the power of our flash. Because the flash is going off so quickly, increasing the shutter speed, or slowing it down, I should say, will not brighten the flash, because it's just making the window longer, and that flash is still just a very split-second moment in that shutter speed anyway. And typically, sync speeds on cameras basically only go down to 200 or 250th of a second anyway. You're not going to be able to get so slow that you're not capturing the actual flash without getting shutter problems with the sync of the flash. So if you need extra flash power, you can open up your aperture and increase your ISO. I'd recommend not going beyond f6.3 or ISO 400. And typically I like to be in the 7.1 and then ISO 320 range. I think that's a nice middle ground. Here I was shooting at 400 just to make sure that I was able to get through the property quickly. This was for a rental. So as you can see, I just basically exposed this image until it was right of the histogram, took the shot, that was done. Then I move over to this shot. I was doing this at 1/250th of a second. I probably could have been doing this at 200 or 160 and got away with it just fine. But as you can see, making the shutter speed so low cuts out all the ambient light from outside and the lights inside. And then when you flash with your flash, you're lighting everything with an even color temperature of about 5 to 5500 Kelvin. And this is getting you accurate color throughout the whole space. Now, as you can see, there are some problems. Right around in here, you start to see it get darker. The colors are changing. My 8200 pointed directly at the ceiling is not able to reach all the way back into this corner and light it as well as we're getting over here. There's a much even color here compared to back here. So, you know, popping it over the top here, I can see, okay, I'm gonna need to flash some extra areas here. So all I do is, and I'm doing all this on a timer, by the way. I'm trying to look into using my phone as a trigger with Bluetooth. The app that I use is kind of slow for my GH6, so I'm trying to workshop it, but this was all shot on timers, like 6-second timers, hit it on a sturdy tripod, walk over to where I need to go and start lighting up these areas. So as you can see, I'm no longer behind the camera, so it's darker over here, but I'm illuminating this section here. The way I illuminated this was, I was like, okay, I need to illuminate the kitchen, and then I need to illuminate the dining room. Looking at this image here, it's like everything is good up until about halfway through the room, and then the kitchen and the dining room are dark. So I will light those both separately. And I light them on the left and the right sides. This one needs to be increased a little bit, exposure-wise. It was a little too dark. But here's me on the left of the kitchen, me on the right of the kitchen. Same thing with the dining room. Me on the left of the dining room, me on the right of the dining room. And then these are all window pulls, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But that's all the information we need. We can actually blend these brighter pixels into these darker areas in Photoshop. And then we'll also bring in these window pulls here as well, which are all still shot at that same flash speed of 250th of a second. So first things first, let's make sure that our ambient photo is well exposed. We don't need to worry about the windows being overblown. That's what the window pulls are for. So let's bump the exposure up by maybe 0.5. That looks pretty decent, gets us nice in the ballpark. Oh, also here, let me shift click all these. There's something that we actually should do here, so let me reset that. Going through, making sure we have a camera matching profile. Take a look at what matching profiles you have in here. Camera standard could do the trick just fine. I prefer camera natural for mine. We're not going to worry about the white balance just yet. Come down here. Sharpening, 30 to 50 is good. I'm going to leave that at 40, and then masking we set to around 30, so we're only sharpening the edges of our frame and not the actual whole frame itself. And then I'm going to hit it on a +4 and a +4 on the D fringe there, and make sure I have my remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections turned on there. So that's all good to go. That's all synced up properly. Okay, now, first image here, like I said, I'm gonna bring it up to maybe, do I want maybe 0.7? I'll bring it down back to 0.5, I think is fine. And that's all we're gonna do with this image. We just need to make sure it's bright enough. Oh, one more thing, I completely forgot while I have all these shift clicked. Bring the highlights down by 50 and the shadows up by 50. There's the sauce, there's the sauce. All right, so now it's actually a little too bright. So 0.2 is fine, I think. Seems all right. Okay, so now we're going to shift click the rest here, and we're going to get the white balance synced up properly. I have auto sync turned on down here. And the nice thing about popping a flash like this is that you're going to get exactly the correct white balance very easily. So I can, like, you know, hit W and maybe click on the rug, and like hardly anything changed. It looks pretty good. It's around 5400. Let me go back to maybe the the kitchen here and see if I can get off of this, not proof view, get off of this here. And that's still pretty close. Yeah, so we'll just go with that. I might cool it off a tad down to 5400, and that looks just fine to me. So we have our white balance set across all of the images that matter. These are all the same now. And now we can go in and adjust accordingly. So doing the 50-50 highlights and shadows took care of some of the bright spots here. And yeah, it also helps with this distant area back here. Now I'm actually going to show you what it just looks like to do the Flambient blend. So I'm going to take these two images, right click, edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. And now you can see the result of just doing this very simple technique. I have hot spots in the window there on the right hand side as well. And very bright windows here, and also like a very dark area back here. But we can get a very usable image out of this that looks very solid. So all that we have to do to achieve this blend is we take the ambient layer, set the blend mode to luminosity, and then set the opacity to 50%. Look at that. That's pretty good. I mean, it's a little hazy back here because the color is not exactly correct. It's not illuminated well. So that's kind of what starts to happen when things get a little bit dark, but that's perfectly fine, right? You could also put a layer mask on this, go to brush, and here, let me brush tool, go back to soft round brush. I like 50% hardness, and we can hit X to go to our black right there. Flow of about 2. We can just kind of like brush some of this extra brightness off of the windows, just to kind of darken them up a little bit. So we're hiding the luminosity from that ambient layer and basically just revealing the flash layer beneath. But like, there you go. And then I can just flatten this whole thing, Control Shift A to bring up camera raw, and then hit it with Nathan Cool's post blend bump. And look at that. That's a perfectly acceptable, solid image. But we can take this an extra step further here. So I'm just going to go ahead and Control S that, Control W, and we'll just save that for later. But what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go through each one of these and adjust exposure accordingly. So for these extra areas in the back, I like to go a tad too bright, like just to make sure I have enough information. So probably +6 here. I know this one's going to have to come up quite a bit. 1.5 is fine, and you can push these extra flash layers quite a bit, and they'll still be fine. We're just want to make sure we get the color as accurate as possible so the ambient doesn't have to do as much heavy lifting. All right, so here I would say maybe yeah, like a full 1, maybe a 0.8 is good. Again, we're trying to illuminate this area here. Push this to like, we want 1.5, 1.4, and then so here are our window pulls. These are all probably going to be fine as they are. Let's see. So that's that one. Okay, so I actually don't need this one. This one is no good. I'm pointing at these, trying not to get any glares. Yeah, that's all fine. That all looks okay to me. So yeah, we're going to go ahead, Control Shift click all of these. I'm not going to include that edit we already made. Edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. So we'll wait for these to open. Okay, we have all of the images loaded up here. They bring in the order in which they're shot, so it is a good idea to go ambient, flash above, and then fill in any areas, and then end with your window pulls, just so we can kind of organize them properly as we work here. So I have actions here built that kind of help me out. So here's our basic Flambient action. What it does is it aligns all the images, which I don't know if I need to do that or not. I'm going to not do it this time, just in case. When you're shooting extra stuff like over in the dark, it can kind of align weird, so you have to be careful of that. It's just not a good idea to keep hitting the button on your camera, really. But that's my own cross to bear. So I will run the no align version, and basically all that does is it takes the ambient layer here, sets it to luminosity 50%, puts it in a group with a layer mask here so I can delete whatever I want. And I actually have a system here where I just kind of polygonal lasso tool around the window while I have the ambient layer mask selected. And then I have a thing here that feathers the pixel, feathers the selection by 1 pixel and fills it with 70% black. And it's like a quick window pull. So that's just a handy thing I do when I'm doing flash stuff. If I don't have window pulls, I just want to darken the area around the window, make it a little better, not so hazy. I'll use that. So yeah, basically that is done for the flambient blending. But I'm going to turn off the ambient layer here, as well as the main flash pop above the camera, and we're going to work on mixing these together. Now, if you understand this process easily enough, or you're able to master this process, you'll be able to get through this whole blending sequence easily enough. And I will show you how that works here. So like I said, we've turned off our ambient layer and our main flash pop over the top. And now we're going to be working on the sections here. So here's our left for kitchen and then right for kitchen. Now all I'm going to do is select this layer here, hit it with a layer mask, hit G for gradient, make sure I have my default gradient selected, and then right where I'm at, or if there's like a really strong pop right here, try to meet in the middle. I'm going to click and drag, you hold shift to keep it straight, and you basically go over until you see yourself again on the layer below, pull it in, and then right here in the middle, you can kind of adjust where the mix is. So just find a spot that looks kind of natural. Bada bing, bada boom. Control click. We have both these layers selected. Control E. So there's our 2 kitchen layers melded together with a gradient. As you can see, it's like, oh, there's just a magical light coming from the kitchen. Perfect. Turn that off. Do the same thing over here with the dining room. Layer mask. We're still on gradient. Click and drag. Where am I? I'm over here. Okay. So I am about right there. Sometimes I find it nice to kind of put this middle spot on the near the lights if possible, because it kind of naturally makes it a brighter spot. So there's that. Control E. A little bit of a hot spot on the fridge there. I wonder which layer is that coming from. This one. Okay, and then that one's actually a bit better. So I'm going to zoom in here, and I am going to click on this, hit B, and we're going to brush in with black over this fridge here, because I want to kind of darken it up. I don't want it this bright. Am I doing it correctly? Oh no, I want the reverse. Sorry, I want white, because it's a little dark right here. There we go. Bring my flow down to 1. We want this to be very subtle. Okay, that's fine. Just to dial that in a little bit. Not necessary when we do the blending later, but you know, might as well. Okay, turn that off. And then we have the window pulls here, which we'll do at the end. So let's go ahead and mix these in with each other. So I'm going to go ahead and turn on the 2 layers here. We have the kitchen one. We're going to set it to screen. And as you can see, it's mixing with the dining room layer below it, and it's very bright. So what we want to do is basically pull the opacity all the way down and then push it up. We're doing this for the kitchen, remember. Push, and we're trying to blend the kitchen with the dining room below. So you basically push the opacity up until it's like maybe a tad too bright. So opacity of 50%. Hold Alt, layer mask. So we now are looking at just the dining room being lit up, and we want to mix in the kitchen with the dining room. The kitchen layer is set to an opacity that is just a little bit too bright. And so we're not going to like overly, go over and make this too bright. because the opacity is set correctly. So the layer mask is hiding everything. Flow of 1. We're just going to kind of just brush in the kitchen here. It doesn't have to be much. A little bit goes a long way. But just kind of any area that's maybe a little too dark. Boom, there you go. Off, on, off, on. That dining room layer is actually doing quite a bit of legwork, which is nice. But yeah, you don't have to go too super crazy here. Like there you go. Merge that with the one below it. Control E. Okay, so now we are ready to take this back area and merge it with the front area. So we're going to do the same thing again. Take this layer with the back area, put it above this flash pop here, and we're going to set this to screen and do the exact same thing. Screen's going to make it way too bright. Bring the opacity down, push it up until the back area is exposed well enough. I'm going to say maybe like 60% here. Alt, layer mask, and then we just go ahead and we brush into our heart's content and light up this back area here. The only thing you really have to concern yourself with when you do this is the flash pops in the windows. So if you're like lighting up stuff next to windows and you start brushing and stuff like this, it can make the windows have flash pops in them or whatever, and you might have to do some window pulls. But as you can see, this is lighting up the back area nicely. You can use it to kind of also just brush in any darker areas in the screen. It might help illuminate that. So there you go. As you can see, if I turn this off, it's dark. Now it's not. And that's really all you need. So Control E, merge those two together, turn the ambient back on, and now we have a much more color accurate back area right there. It's still a little hazy. That's mostly just the ambient being really strong with the windows back here, which we can control and handle. We can also just kind of paint it out a little bit, which we might do. But as you can see, the color is way more even now. The ambient doesn't have to work as hard. So I'm just going to kind of paint a little bit of the ambient luminosity out of these back areas here because we mainly needed it for the interior and we don't want the windows overpowering the areas that they're lighting up. So that's with it off. And then with it on, just kind of tames the brightness there. So this is already a pretty good looking image here, but we're going to take it a step further and do some window pulls. So this is how a window pull works. You still have you basically have the camera set for exposing for the exterior, which is usually, 250th of a second. If you can go that low, 200th of a second. Set your ISO down to 200. Keep your aperture the same. And then you're going to basically shoot at the window and overexpose the interior. So if we zoom in here and turn this back on, you can see that this right here, this area, I'm exposing it way brighter in this image. And then when we set this to darken blending mode, we can easily polygonal lasso tool or paint in this window. Because it's only going to reveal the darker pixels, and because everything inside is brighter, it'll be very easy to do that. So I have an action set up to do this already. It's called window pull layer here. It brings it to the top, sets it to darken, and hits it with a mask. So if I just do Control F4, it'll already do that for me. And then I can zoom in here and just very loosely around this. I don't have to get super precise. I do that, and then make sure I have black as my lower color there. Hit delete. Oh no, sorry, white. There we go. Bada bing, bada boom. So that just brought in that window magically. See, it's just like, bloop, there it is. Bloop. You can have some issues with shadows. So if you're shooting against something, you can see there's kind of maybe a little bit of a shadow here. Because I was kind of getting it over at a weird angle. A little bit of a shadow here maybe from this. So you kind of have to like pay attention to that. And if it's too drastic, you have to erase it to the best of your ability. But like, don't worry too much about it. And the nice thing about it is you can kind of adjust the opacity of this to your content. You might not like that really stark, darker exterior, but maybe opacity of 80, you know, just to kind of bring it in. Still looks bright. So again, same thing. Let me alt click. So this is this window here. Control F4, we bring it up to the top. Now let's see, let's hope that this window comes in okay. It might need a little bit of TLC, but we will see. I'm just gonna kind of give it some help there. All right, so delete. That's pretty good. It didn't hit the chairs quite so well, so we kind of have to go around. But like that's a fast window pull, right? I mean, like nothing to snooze at there. You can also just go to the object selection tool and do this. This can be helpful. And you don't like with objects far away, like on the MLS, no one really cares, you know. If you want to get super technical, you could do stuff like this. But you know what? This is the whole window pulls are the whole reason that we don't even do that in the first place. So I will just leave that as it is. Again, opacity, let's just do 80. 80 is nice. So we're just bringing in these windows, super easy. This one here, bring it up, bring it all up. Again, this one should be pretty simple. Just very simple lasso tool there. Nice. It's getting some reflections outside, which is whatever. Whatever these are called. I learned what these were called. The little bars are kind of like hitting that fence out there, but it's okay. Same one here. Control F4. Hopefully, should be able to just kind of. I think I'm overexposing the couch. I hope I am. Yeah, look at that. Doesn't really get any easier than that. And then finally, this one, Control F4. If I remember correctly, I think the little lamp here looks a little weird when I do this. Oh no, it's okay. It's all right. Okay, cool. That with 80% as well, and I can just go ahead and group all these together. So window pulls, bada bing, bada boom. Didn't take long at all to edit them, but there they are, and they look nice. So yeah, this looks like a perfectly acceptable finished image to me. I'm gonna go ahead and flatten it. I'm gonna go ahead and bring up my camera raw and hit it with the post blend bump from Nathan Cool. So I took this from his channel. It's a +10 to contrast, -75 to highlights, +60 to shadows, +25 to whites, -45 to blacks. And then I add 10 texture and 10 clarity myself. So I think this could maybe even use like a 20 on contrast. It looks looking a little like oversaturated. Is that just me? I think it is. I don't know. It's very nice though. Very vibrant, you know. And look, we're exposing to the right here still. I'm going to boost it up by 10 though, because I like things to be a little brighter. Look at that. Look at that image. So that was not long to edit at all. So here's the two different examples. You know, this is the one where I didn't illuminate the back, and then here's the one that I did. Also, no window pulls, but so that's the simple, quick, easy, dirty version, and then this, which is obviously brighter, cleaner. The windows are magnificent. So, like I showed you, that was a pretty quick process, right? If I were to go through it again and just like loosely time myself, I could show you how quickly this goes, which I might do here. So, like I said, this series of images to get all this took 2 minutes on site to get all of this. So let me go through and grab all these again, and I will just put up a timer, and I'm not going to rush myself, but I'll casually go through these here. It honestly might take longer to get the images actually loaded into Photoshop than to do the actual blend itself. But like I said, I'm going to set up a timer, show you how long it takes me to do this. I won't slow down to explain anything, but I still will walk through the process. So without further ado, let's begin. There's the blend. I will turn that off. I will turn this off. We go in here, layer mask, come in. G for gradient, everything is set correctly. Yep. All right. blend over to here. Right about there, looks good. Okay, next one. This one's actually nice and decently, there we go. Oh, actually, I wanna come in here. I'm gonna do the extra. I'm gonna go the extra mile. Okay, and then window pulls. So let's merge these together here. Screen. Started around 50, 40. Okay. Brush in. I could increase the flow, but I like having it really low, like at 1 or 2, just to have extra control over this. Okay. I'm also like not even really using, I'm using like actions and stuff, but like I'm not using hotkeys as much as I could be. It's like I don't know the hotkey for the polygonal lasso tool, but it's right there. And then as I finish up the window pulls here, I'm going to group them all and hit them with an 80% opacity altogether. Flatten, bump. Nice. Control S, done. And it's back in Photoshop, Lightroom here. So there's that. Once you're done, you know, you can just select all the TIFFs, constrain, crop, hit it with a vertical, and you are ready to deliver a fantastic image. So I hope that that was helpful. It's a process that I've kind of developed from other YouTubers and just learning basic things and finding a workflow that seems to work okay. I get fantastic images out of this, and yeah, only takes a couple minutes on site to capture stuff like this, and then you don't have to outsource it, and you might be the best photographer in your town, because not a whole lot of people are doing this Flambient as much anymore when it's so easy to outsource HDR. So just invest in a 8200, grab a simple trigger, flash trigger for your camera, and test this out. The results speak for themselves, as you can see. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you learned stuff from it. If there's more you want me to make or have any questions, comment down below and I'll do my best to respond. Thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and until next time, Godspeed.